Let's be honest, 3D printing is still a pretty new field for many of us. Most people will get really excited if they see an object which was not manufactured, but printed out by a little machine. The startup we are visiting today is taking 3D printing to a whole new level, or to be precise, a larger scale. In 2014, BigRep has paved the way for large-scale 3D printing and soon became the producer of the biggest 3D printers in serial production worldwide. And the Berlin-based startup is not holding back on making big plans for the future. Furniture, vehicles, and even robotics are on the list that BigRep wants to print. So how could this change the way we consume and produce in the future? Let's go and have a look.
Starting with only 3 people in a small office in 2014, BigRep now employs 50 talents in their headquarters in Berlin Kreuzberg. They went global and opened offices in Singapore and New York. BigRep 1 opened the gateway to large-scale 3D printing for an affordable price. But competition never rests, and a big number of new players have emerged in the field of large-scale 3D printing. But how does the pioneer stay on top of the game?
We've all heard about like small 3D printers, and now these ones are gigantic comparatively. What are the advantages of printing on this large scale, and is there something, a drawback? Does some of the quality get lost along the way, or is it just the same?
The biggest drawback is the time. If you want to print something in amazing quality, you can still do it. Just instead of waiting 4 hours for your print, you're going to wait 36. So there's a lot of engineering that goes in taking a small path that runs very quickly on a small machine and building a multiple kilo version of it that runs over a larger build space.
You've already worked for MakerBot, which is also a really big 3D printing company in New York. How do you see the differences in between the New York startup market and the Berlin startup bubble?
Yeah, it's those little differences that really get everybody. A startup is always focused on 2 things. You're building your idea and you're making sure it's what people want. And whether it's New York or Berlin, that's really how things get built. Berlin definitely is growing as a startup capital, and it's really accumulating a lot of the talent and expertise it needs. There are some minor differences in culture. There are some minor differences between the New York, I'm going to grab this and take it and run with it, and the more respectful German version of like, here, or do we both agree that this works? Yeah. There's a little bit more consensus. Are we all getting on the same page here?
Okay, so you have a huge office as well. We've just walked through everything. You have meeting rooms everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you have different areas of designers and, I don't know.
We do.
Who works here?
The office sort of works from engineering and testing in the back, around through customer support. Okay. Customer support are the people that actually pick up the phone when you have a problem, help you figure out how to solve it and make sure you keep going. And then sort of towards sales and operations up front.
And where do you think 3D printing can go? What can it do? Because it seems like it could do everything. It seems like it could build huge spaceships and cars and everything. And what's realistically going to happen in the next 5 years, or maybe even further into the future?
It will definitely influence manufacturing into a way that we did not see it coming. For example, the hearing aid industry has been changed in only 500 days completely from wax molds that used to be done to a scan and then a 3D print. And I think the greatest big thing that is gonna come in the next 2 or 3 years is spare parts. Just imagine how many parts we need each day, little plastic clips or whatever. You don't go to the shop anymore. You download it from the website and you just, the missing clip is just gonna be printed at home. Also, the mass customization is going to come. So maybe you don't want the general lamp that everybody has. Maybe you want it in a different shape with your name on it. So, even in IKEA one day, I'm sure it's going to take 2 or 3 years, and IKEA will start implementing 3D printing into their daily life. And you just customize something. You actually become a designer.
This is the BigRep workshop.
Okay.
This is where we do all of our cutting and shaping and the real hard design work and the real hard engineering work. Some of these have materials in them like silver or bronze or wood. This is just a gray colored material. We can also do flexible materials if you want to print something like a shoe.
And now slowly, as you're becoming more and more successful, other companies are following. And what do you do to stay on top of the game in order to avoid competition, or maybe even do something completely different they wouldn't have thought of?
You're completely right. We were actually a first mover in this segment, and we were the first ones to really bring down the price from $1 million to more like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. We do have a big advantage because we were the first ones in this market and everybody talks to us. So I'm so amazed. Every week the phone rings and there's a BMW, there's a Daimler, there's a Siemens, there's Google, there's everybody on the phone telling us what they need. So we totally believe that we know a lot more than our competition does. And to stay on top of that, we're working on the second and third version of our machines right now.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Being the first of the market does not only come with advantages. You have to experiment in order to know your target audience, and sometimes even educate your market as you go. Selling your product will cost more time and effort than it would in a market with clearly established demand. And once you've set the rules in a field, it will not take long for the competition to rise, especially because large-scale 3D printing will, without doubt, play a big role in the future of the economy. So far, BigRep has been very successful in occupying a niche at an early stage and attracted a big range of customers from around the globe. But they have to expand their features in order to stay on top of the game and continue to shape the way we produce and consume in the future.